And there was evening, and there was morning on the fifth day. Friends, today we continue our worship and sermon series based on the story of creation from Genesis chapter 1, in the beginning. And we hear of God's calling forth today of our planet's animals, birds of the sky, fish of the sea, and creatures of the land. Someone recently pointed out to me the word teeming in this passage. If you were listening, it was used twice to describe the animals being brought forth. The woman that I was talking with said for her the word teeming conjured up images of creation as a busy and energetic and loud, messy endeavor. I kind of like those ways of describing the creation of the world. I resonate with that sense of artistry, being able to create without reservation, completely free from judgment and worry. For a brief time before my first call to ministry, I was a long-term substitute teacher for a class of kindergartners. Hands down, my favorite day of the week was when my students had art class. As 4- and 5-year-olds, I just adored watching them create with wild abandon. I can tell you I was probably not the most well-liked teacher in the building, as I have a hunch I got a reputation for acting a bit too much like a kindergartner myself. But hey, I always stayed late on art days and made sure my classroom was put back together with some semblance of order. But gosh, it was fun. Paint and glitter and clay and glue. They were always making the most beautiful creations. I remember one time this little girl ended up spilling an entire vial of glitter onto the carpet. As soon as she did it, big tears began to form in her eyes, and I am sure she thought that she was going to be in trouble. Well, another little one who saw what was happening quickly got down on his hands and knees and began tossing the glitter into the air, shouting, "Look, it's a party!" Well, this led to mass pandemonium as everyone wanted to join in the party. And at the end of the day, there was not a child who left my room who wasn't leaving a trail of rainbow glitter in their wake. They were busy. They were energetic and loud and messy. And they created the most beautiful world inside that classroom. When I think about this fifth day of creation and God fashioning with wild abandon the birds of the sky and the fish of the sea and the creatures of the land, I can't help but think about that kindergarten class. The other really interesting bit from this passage about the fifth day of creation is the use of the phrase according to their kinds. Did you catch it? It is used specifically for all three of God's creations: birds of the air, fish of the sea, and creatures of the land. Each was created according to their kinds, says the text. Now, some people will use this phrase as justification for the divvying up or the dividing up of the Earth's species, including human beings. It's that old adage, you know it, birds of a feather stick together. And still others will not only divide God's creatures up, but will then place value on particular categories of creatures, a hierarchy of sorts, with Homo sapiens, which in Latin literally means wise man, being of greatest value. However, friends, this is a gross misrepresentation and interpretation of the biblical text. You see, God, who created different species according to their kinds, did not do so to create division. Rather, God was creating with purpose and intentionality, taking great pains to create a masterpiece in which the intricacy of each and every aspect of what God created was not only good, but essential, necessary for the entirety of the whole to be sustained. God created a world uniquely interdependent, a system where if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not stop being a part of the body. In his book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, author Michael Pollan explores the worlds of industrial farming, organic and sustainable agriculture, and even hunting and gathering to determine the links of food chains. Basically, how food gets from its source in nature to our plates, to our dinner tables. In essence, what Pollan does in his book is he reconnects us back to the process. He reminds us that we are part of an intricate system, not independent from it, nor are we owners of it. One of the examples that Pollan uses around sustainability, and I would argue this is a wonderful, a fabulous example of interdependency, is an example of a farmer's barn. And it goes like this. Pollan says, a farmer who is raising cows that need to be sheltered in the winter months does not clean out the barn as one might think. Rather, the farmer leaves the manure that has been laid down by the cows and actually adds hay to it throughout the months of sheltering. Manure, hay, you get the point. The farmer repeats this process over and over again while also intermittently adding leftover corn cobs into the mix. Manure, hay, corn cobs, manure, hay, corn cobs. The corn cobs begin to ferment when mixed with the manure and hay. And in late winter, very early spring, when the weather breaks, the farmer lets the cows out to pasture and brings the pigs into the barn. Wanting to find those corn cobs, the pigs begin to root through the cows' gifts. The rooting actually aerates the layers of cow dung and straw, which creates an absolutely perfect compost, which then is hauled out of the barn and added to the farmer's gardens, where crops of vegetables and herbs and flowers are planted. The barn is then cleaned out and the process starts all over again the following fall. And friends, I love this example. The layered quality of barn life, the way that it is so easy to see how part of the system plays an important and essential role in the whole. And I think this is so applicable to the very lives that we live as well. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all go out and buy cows and pigs and create barns for ourselves. Rather, I would encourage us to look around and find ways to make connections with what seems unfamiliar, or to what seems unrelated, or to what seems messy, or to what might actually be outside of our comfort zone. You see, I believe that in our relentless pursuit of success, we have traded God's intended order for our own. And I think we can be honest with one another this morning, and we can call that what it is, which is sin. By deciding that we know better than God, that fierce independence is the only way to get ahead, that destroying the intricate web which is creation is the best answer, in our desperate need to come across as I can do it all on my own, no help needed here. What we've actually done is created systems, created a world where too many people feel totally alone. We've created systems that simply do not work for the entire body of Christ. A world of haves and have-nots, where justice and life and the pursuit of happiness is an option for some, but not for all. You see, friends, there's a very fine line between what we consider being independent and what ends up creating isolation and doing harm. And we've done it. If we look around, we've done it in almost every aspect of our lives, haven't we? So I guess I'd ask this morning, why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? I'd say it comes down to one word, and that word is fear. Fear. When the long white truck drove through Roosevelt Arch on January 12th, 1995, it was almost like watching a modern-day Trojan horse arrive in Yellowstone. Inside were 8 gray wolves from Jasper National Park in Alberta, Canada. They became the first wolves to roam Yellowstone since the 1920s, when the last pack was killed. Bringing back the wolves was controversial, for sure, and it struck a nerve among ranchers along the park's boundaries who feared, there's that word, who feared the wolves would wander out of the park and kill their livestock. But wildlife biologists felt the wolves played a key role in the Yellowstone ecosystem, including controlling the elk population, which had ballooned in the wolves' absence and wreaked havoc on the range. Although the debate is still strong, for sure, inside the park, scientists joyously exclaim that the wolves, they believe, have literally saved Yellowstone, as the presence of the wolves now for 25 years has triggered a still unfolding cascade effect among animals and plants, one that will take decades of research to really fully understand. However, what we do know now is that the presence of the wolves keeps elk moving more in the winter months, which allows different habitats and plants like the willow, aspen, and cottonwood to regenerate, which allows other species to flourish, like the beaver. Who knew? And the beaver dams have multiple effects on stream hydrology. They even out the seasonal pulses of runoff, store water for recharging the water table, and provide cold, shaded water for fish. Willows, on the other hand, provide perfect habitat for songbirds. Who knew? Who knew reintroducing one particular species, not allowing fear, but faith to rule, would change an entire ecosystem? I do think it comes down to fear, my friends. Fear of what we don't know, fear of the other, fear if I thrive, or if you thrive, somehow I might be diminished. Fear that if we give up control, then my life or my way of life may be in jeopardy. But from the very beginning, that is not how God created. Rather, God created, as I said before, with purpose and intentionality. God created every last species in an interdependent web, blessed it all, and charged it to multiply, not for an individual species' sake, but for us all. My beloveds, one of the greatest lessons, or one great lesson I think we have learned during this pandemic is just how much we really need one another to survive. Many of you have seen the pictures of cities without smog, mountain ranges that have been seen with the naked eye for the first time in decades. We've seen pictures of monkeys gathering in village squares or sheep meandering through small towns, all because of small shifts in human behavior. Small shifts away from our obsession with independence, it's all about me, have created major changes for our planet. The we, the us, all of us. Friends, I hope this is something that we can take forward, that this isn't a lesson that just trends for a bit. Rather, I hope over the last 14 months, something has changed in us in a cellular way, and that we actually understand in beautiful and new ways that the birds of the sky and the fish of the sea and the creatures of the land, each created according to their kinds, is a gift from God. And that we are a part of that gift, a part of that intricate system in which every blessed species is valued, important, and necessary for survival. Beloveds, there was evening and there was morning on the 5th day. Amen.